And once again, I want to say greetings to each and every one of you, Aquaba, and welcome. Welcome to another round of the Conscious Master Report here on LIB Radio, LIBTV, livinginblack.com. Kedio Wadu is my name, aka the Conscious Master. Weekday mornings, you and I get together live. We come at you from 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's 12 noon Eastern Time, 5 p.m. GMT, and 7 p.m. East Africa Time. We get together with you. And we'll deal with culture, consciousness, historical perspectives, entertainment, economics, education, health, labor law, politics, religion, family conflict, future studies, Pan-African affairs, sovereign and sustainable development. Today's date is Wednesday. It is the 2nd of April. 2025 in the Western calendar. This corresponds to the year 6265 in the Kemetic calendar, to which we have realigned our cultural clock. Welcome to the 7th millennium. You have found your family in a peaceful place on LIB Radio, LIB TV, here on livinginblack.com. We are in Conscious Rasta Report mode today. I'm doing the best I can to do the best I can. Part of my mission, and I'm very serious about it. Two parts of my mission. One, collaboration, cooperation. This is the year for collaboration, cooperation. Working together. Find partners, find groups of people willing to synchronize on common goals, very highly relevant goals for the outcome of the world, for sovereign, sustainable development, and also goals that we are highly motivated by. Had a beautiful conversation, and I want to say happy solar return to one of my dearest friends in life, Brother Amasis Ma'at, the Mantu scholar, Mantu warrior. He and I had a wonderful conversation yesterday. And Amasis, if you're out there listening, I'm talking about you, man. We can dig it. But he is such a good and wonderful, he's a good human being. He's a good family man. He's about to become a grandfather. And my Ra niece, Jinyame, is about to bear my dear brother Amasis, a grandson. That's to live for. But we had a conversation, and he was giving me a tour of his studio that he set up at his home. And I was wonderfully impressed. And he and I vowed in the conversation to live to be 120 plus years. And I said, I'm going to hold you true to that, because I'm going to need a witness to tell everybody I did what I said I was going to do. And I said, I promise you I will be around to be your witness that you did what you said you were going to do. And that's what collaboration and cooperation is about. We hold each other accountable to our highest values. Today on LIB Radio, we're talking about Africa. We're talking about investing Africa. The subject for today is frontier markets begging for Pan-African investment. Today on LIB Radio, Africa is alive, and we are committed to making money in emerging markets. Today we look at the topic of frontier markets. These are parts of the world or nations that stand outside of the major market indexes that investing usually pursues. We can look at nations like Cambodia, Vietnam, Mongolia, Bangladesh, and Kazakhstan for their growth, impressive growth in the 21st century. But don't overlook Ethiopia, Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, and Angola for the next group of high performing frontiers. We need to know what others know about frontier markets begging for our Pan-African investment. That's the subject for today. As you can tell, I hope you can tell by the size of my eyes, this has got me fascinated. I tell you, I'm going to be putting together the capital. So I'm not even going to use the word if. I'll use the word as. As I accumulate capital for investing, I don't want to be like my brother Heru. Heru, he's a wonderful investor, and he knows about frontier markets. So I want to be like you, brother Heru. And I want to be like you, brother Ma'at. Let's continue. Here are some insightful quotes for investing in frontier markets. And I have sources on some of these, but not all of them. And I have my raw research note paper out on the desk for today. So that's going to be pretty much the center of the conversation. I am writing on the book, but I just didn't get a chance to get all of this research done today and push it into the book. But by the end of the day, this will be a chapter in the book. The book is entitled Africa Alive, Investing in Emerging Markets. So here are some insightful quotes on investing in frontier markets from Investopedia. Frontier markets offer the potential for outsized returns, but they come with higher risks. The key is to diversify and invest with a long-term perspective. Yes, 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 true. Quote from Finbold. Investing in frontier markets is like planting seeds in fertile but uncharted soil. The growth potential is immense, but it requires patience and careful nurturing. Quote from U.S. News. The miracle of compounding returns is amplified in frontier markets, where opportunities for growth are abundant but often overlooked. Quote, a frontier market is a country that is more established than the least developed countries, LDCs, but still less established than the emerging markets because it's too small, carries too much inherent risk, or is too illiquid to be considered an emerging market. Good point. And I don't have the point of reference on that quote, so I'm just going to share these next few. They all came from one reference. I think I pulled that up, but I don't have time to search for that again. While they are smaller, less accessible, and somewhat riskier than most established markets, frontier markets are still investable. They are considered desirable by investors looking for substantial long-term returns because these markets have the potential to become much more stable and established over the course of decades. Be patient. We're in it for the long run. This is not a sprint. It's a marathon. The only sprinting part is getting to the starting line. Quote, investors pursue frontier equity markets to seek potentially high returns. Although it's possible to achieve strong results from investing in frontier markets, investors must also accept higher risks than in the United States or Europe, for example, or any other of the G7 nations. Next quote, frontier markets ended the year with a modest decline of 1.0% in the final quarter, while the East Capital Global frontier markets slightly outperformed with a loss of 0.9%. For the full year, the benchmark MCSI Frontier Markets Index, and that stands for Morgan Stanley capital investments, frontier markets index gained 9.6%, while our strategy delivered an exceptional 20.8% return, achieving a substantial 11.2% outperformance. So I wish I had the source of that quote. It was one of these groups that talked about their performance in frontier markets, delivering 20.8% return on the year when others were losing 1% or 0.9%. Last quote, frontier markets continue to offer appealing growth prospects, reform momentum, and technological advancements. At just 7x, 7 times forward earnings, despite 2 years of exceptional returns, we firmly believe that valuations remain compelling relative to both emerging and developed markets, which trade at 39% and 63% profit to earnings discounts, respectively. I didn't understand all of that. But I can assure you this. By the end of today's program, I will understand much more about frontier market investing than I did at the beginning of today's program. That is why we do this. That's why you join me. That's why we hang out together. I am today here on Facebook Live. We welcome you. Let me see if anybody on Facebook Live has discovered what this is about. Nobody responding there. We are on Rumble Live. And let me just see, one other person other than myself has hit the like button, even though no one has commented. I do have a small class on Rumble Live. It's an honor to be with you. And we are up on YouNow. And let me just double check for my YouNow family. You know you do matter. You do definitely matter. And I'm not seeing anybody talking to me there yet. Pingao is in the house. Great to have you with us. I see that name. And we are on YouTube live today. And what I'm going to do is just pull that one up so I can monitor all of these. We also broadcast every day, all day long on the TuneIn app. And that is as LIB Radio. So wherever you are, that's where we want to be. I want to thank you all for tuning in today. Hit the like button wherever you are. Let the algorithms know you appreciate being in your family. Let's go into this subject. We're talking about investing and getting returns on our investment. Frontier markets have shown impressive growth in the 21st century, with several countries standing out for their strong economic performance and investment potential. These countries include Vietnam. Vietnam boasts one of Asia's highest growth rates, with stable GDP growth and a young, rapidly growing population. It has not experienced a recession in decades. Cambodia, Southeast Asia's fastest growing economy, with rapid growth exceeding 7% per year. That's pretty good. Now, Cote d'Ivoire is slightly higher than that right now, but I'm not taking nothing away from Cambodia. It has a thriving tourism sector and a young population. Mongolia, strategically located between China and Russia, with rich mineral deposits. Chinese investment has significantly boosted Mongolia's economy. Kazakhstan, a key player in China's Belt and Road Initiative, with vast oil and uranium deposits. Kazakhstan has a favorable business climate and strong logistics potential. Bangladesh, average annual growth of over 6% over the past decade, with strong public sector support for infrastructure It has experienced relative political stability. Those are 5 Asian performers' high growth rates. These are frontier markets. But I say don't overlook Africa. Don't overlook Africa. On this list, Kenya, the largest and most advanced economy in East and Central Africa, with a growing technology sector and a thriving startup scene. Kenya. Romania, the EU's fastest growing economy, with a competitive tax policy and a talented workforce. It has 72 industrial parks spread across the country. These markets offer significant opportunities for investors driven by internal growth factors and less correlated with global economic trends. So let's go forward. I asked of my AI searches, and I searched today on Brave, Copilot, Ecosia, and DuckDuckGo. So I use 4 AI search engines to compile much of this research. And of course, this will be written into the chapter of the book, Africa Alive. List the top 5 performing African frontier markets in the 21st century. And it found numerous other web pages as well. I'm going to be citing some of these other articles that were found. Several African countries have shown significant economic growth and potential in the 21st century, making them attractive frontier markets for investors. Here are the top 5 performing African frontier markets. Number 1, Ethiopia, one of the fastest growing economies, with an average GDP growth rate of 10.5% from 2005-2006 to 2015-2016. Let me repeat that. Ethiopia, one of the fastest growing economies, with an average annual GDP growth rate of 10.5% from 2005-2006 to 2015-2016. Number 2, Nigeria, a leading African economy with a large consumer market and significant investments from foreign companies like Coca-Cola and Heineken. Number 3 on this list, Kenya, known for its robust financial sector and growing tech industry. Kenya has attracted substantial foreign investment. Kenya is at the heart of my own particular interest in developing and investing in Africa, no doubt. Ghana, home to a thriving health tech sector with startups like M-Pharma receiving significant funding from international investors. What do you and I know about M-Pharma? Do you read How We Made It in Africa? I think that should be regular reading for those of us who are thinking over the horizon. How We Made It in Africa. I'm going to do a significant chapter review of stories from How We Made It in Africa in the book Africa Alive. And number 5 on this African list of frontier markets, fastest growing economies, Angola. Despite challenges, Angola has seen substantial investments in sectors like oil and gas, making it a key frontier market. And now there is a huge investment coming from the United States, an agreement signed under the Biden administration to push $5.1 billion into a standard gauge railroad from Luanda on the west coast of Africa, the seaport of Angola, the capital of Angola, all the way through to Zambia, to Maputo, which will transit another country. Is it Botswana, Namibia? I think it will transit Botswana or Namibia briefly. But that's a very, very important development, that Luanda-Lupito standard gauge railroad. Everywhere along that railroad, wherever the railroad crosses a river, there you can expect pretty explosive growth over the coming 10 to 20 years. You've been alerted. Now, don't just run over there and say, well, I found this out from Kitty and I'm not even going to tell Kitty about it. No, tell Kitty about it. Tell her, let's collaborate, cooperate. I do see someone has showed up in the live chat. Let me check over here, my Rumble family. And I see Nguvu says, Sawubona, I will not be able to hear all of the show live, so could you leave links, etc. in the comment section as the chat disappears when you sign off? Are there investment groups formed? And I will leave some links in, I'll leave some links in the comment section. And you can always listen back to it and just take notes. You should be taking notes anyways. Are there investment groups formed? Yes. I belong to one, and I'm trying to start 3 others. I belong to 2, and I'm trying to start a couple of others. So what I'm looking for is a vanguard, a tip of the spear type of leadership. People who are bold. People are very well definitive about what they intend to do. And I'm getting some sort of flashing with the video. That's my camera doing this. It did this a couple of days ago. I'm going to have to swap this camera out. 1 second. I'm going to swap that camera to this one, my integrated camera, which is in the laptop. There it is. I don't like the look of that camera, but the camera is not bouncing and juking around while I'm trying to do the show. So bear with me. We do the best we can with what we got, always striving to get more so we can do better. I'm obviously going to have to swap out and replace my 10-year-old webcam. You got to do what you got to do, man. Anybody want to make a webcam donation? The one that I want costs about $40. And tariffs go into place today. So did everything from Asia just go up 10%, 20, 25%? Let me double check. Let me double check real quick. I'm looking for a 1080p webcam. 1080p webcam for PC. And real quickly, yeah, I guess they've gone up. We can do better. We will do better. And I'm very specific about what type of webcam I need. I just don't need the cheapest one. I can't deal with the cheapest stuff anymore. We're a little more advanced than that. So, and oh, it's got me searching Amazon.co. Real quickly, webcam 1080p webcam. And sorry about that, but you guys aren't talking to me. And I'm looking, I see, ooh, this looks good. And see if it'll give me the price. That's not unreasonable. Okay. We'll double check on that. Going forward, let's go back to the research. And I did get the webcam switched over, so it's not flicking on and off like it was before. And where were we? Let's go back to my research document. And thank you for joining us. And I'll try to put some links in the comment section. See, I wish I had some people who would help out. Used to be my brother Alpha the Alchemist, or Alpha Grio. He would, as I was doing the show, he, as a listener, would be putting out the links for people. But Brother Lim's been busy now for some time. I think he started a new job, and I don't have him available. This is the kind of collaboration, cooperation I'm talking about. So, Nguvu, I don't mean to be rude, but I'm just really overstretched. You wouldn't believe what I went through today to get on the air on time. It was wild. It was wild from the time I woke up. But you don't need to hear all that. Several African countries, we've been talking about these high performers. What are frontier markets? Let's get into this research about frontier markets. What are frontier markets? I got a couple of responses from DuckDuckGo. Frontier markets refer to a subset of emerging markets that are considered to be less developed than traditional emerging markets, but have the potential for significant growth. These markets are typically characterized by low liquidity, less developed financial systems, and higher political and economic risks compared to more established markets. Frontier markets often include countries that are in the early stages of economic development, have smaller market sizes, and may not be as accessible to foreign investors. Examples of frontier markets can include nations and regions such as Africa, parts of Asia, and some areas in Eastern Europe and Latin America. Investing in frontier markets can offer opportunities for high returns due to their growth potential, but it also comes with increased risks, including political instability, currency fluctuations, and less transparency in financial reporting. Investors often approach these markets with caution and may seek to diversify their portfolios to mitigate risks. And that's always going to be good advice. One second. The same question to Brave. What are frontier markets? Frontier markets are less advanced capital markets in the developing world, more established than the least developed countries, LDCs, but still less established than the emerging markets due to their smaller size, higher risk, or lower liquidity. These markets are also known as pre-emerging markets and offer opportunities such as demographic diversity, low correlation with other markets, risk mitigation, and high potential growth. However, they also come with risks including political instability, volatile commodities, currency fluctuations, and inadequate regulations. The term frontier markets was coined in 1992 by Farida Kambata, who was working at the World Bank at that time. Frontier markets are considered the furthest edge of the acceptable investment horizon, beyond which markets are no longer suitable for investment. Despite the risks, the potential for high profits and growth makes these markets attractive to international investors. I'm going to put up one of these quotes here into the comment, not the comment section. Yeah, the comment section. I think I can. Here we go. And this is what you had requested in Google. I don't know if I can do a whole bunch of this because it requires a bunch of scrolling around the page. And I don't have that luxury right now. If there were two of me, I would obviously be able to do that. But it's hard for me to distract my attention. I'm going to put up the link. And as I put them into the chat, you should have a browser open. And just right click and save in a new tab. That's the easiest way. That way I don't have to do a bunch of extra work and you can get the same thing done in real time. So going forward, continuing the dialogue. What are frontier markets? Meaning, history, examples. Written by James Chen, Investopedia, June 22nd, 2022. And here I can do this, I can push this up over here for the YouTube listeners. We don't want to leave you behind. Great to have you in the house. Make sure you hit the like button. What are frontier markets? Frontier markets are less advanced capital markets in the developing world. A frontier market is a country that is more established than the least developed countries, LDCs, but still less established than the emerging markets because it is too small, carries too much internal risk, or is too illiquid to be considered an emerging market. Frontier markets are also known as pre-emerging markets. Key takeaways. A frontier market is a country that is more established than the least developed countries, LDCs, but less established than emerging markets, while they are smaller. Point two, less acceptable and somewhat riskier than more established markets. Frontier markets are still investable. What did I do? Why is this not typing? Space. Okay. Third time's a charm. I don't know what that was. Point two, while less smaller, less accessible, and somewhat riskier than more established markets, frontier markets are still investable. I read that twice. Risks of frontier markets include political instability, poor liquidity, inadequate regulation, substandard financial reporting, and large currency fluctuations. Next, talks about understanding frontier markets. The term frontier markets, coined in 1992 by Farida Kambata, while she was working at the World Bank. More recently, Kambata confounded the company Kartika. Co-founded, not confounded. She co-founded the company Kartika. So she's the one who coins this term. You might want to take a look at Kartika and see what they are up to, what kind of returns they are getting. Continuing. While they are smaller, less accessible, and somewhat riskier than more established markets, frontier markets are still investable. They are considered desirable by investors looking for substantial long-term returns because these markets have the potential to become much more stable and established over the course of decades. However, it is also possible for a more established emerging market to regress to frontier market status. Investing in these markets is still risky. Investors pursue frontier equity markets to seek potentially high returns. As many frontier markets do not have developed stock markets, investments are often direct or private in startups and infrastructure. I want to repeat that section because that's what I'm talking about. As many frontier markets do not have developed stock markets, and those 5 countries I mentioned also have stock markets that are in early stages of development, investments are often private or direct in startups and infrastructure. Although it's possible to achieve strong results from investing in frontier markets, investors must also accept higher risks than in the United States or Europe, for example, or any of the other G7 nations. Some of the risks investors face in frontier markets are political instability, poor liquidity, inadequate regulation, substandard financial reporting, and large currency fluctuations. In addition, many markets are overly dependent on volatile commodities. Yes, Angola is a classic example, Ghana as well. Nigeria, in fact, of all of those African frontier markets, other than Ethiopia and Kenya, the others are highly dependent upon hydrocarbon industries, oil exports. And those are volatile markets, volatile commodities. You're absolutely right. Second question I'm asking, what are the advantages of investing in frontier markets? Brave gave me this return. The advantages of investing in frontier markets. Frontier markets offer several advantages, including the potential for high returns and strong growth, which can be particularly attractive for investors looking for substantial long-term gains. These markets often experience higher economic growth rates compared to their emerging and developed counterparts due to their spare capacity for significant development. Additionally, frontier markets can provide diversification benefits to a portfolio, as they tend to have a low correlation, with other international markets, averaging around 0.38. This low correlation can help reduce overall portfolio risk and volatility. And again, when we saw the world's developed markets and the emerging markets plunge during the COVID pandemic, not all markets around the world were attached to them. And so when we did some comparison about this COVID recession, I looked at African countries, and we reported that here on LAB Radio. I said, these African countries they're receding a little bit, but they have not gone into recession. They're not negative growth rate. They may have dropped down from a 6 to a 2 or 3% annual growth or GDP growth. But compared to America and other countries which went into recession or flattened out, no growth. And America, if they say they're flattened out, that means they're in recession. They're just lying about it. They lie about everything. And now here's the thing. We're poised right on the verge of that literally today, April 2nd, which is the day that Orange 47 has proposed putting sanctions on several major trade partners of the United States. And they are all going to retaliate at a point to try and hurt the U.S. economy, to make Orange 47 back off. Don't be messing with this game we've had going. He's talking about messing with the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the Warburgs and the Oppenheimers. We're talking about these major global banking families, the British Royal Crown. So it's about to get crazy. There's a whole nother story that said this Trump tariffs, recession, depression could be just a cover up because the old order has to be reset every now and then, and resetting it the right way, the honest, fair way, would crash the system, and we'd end up in another situation like the French Revolution of 1789. Let them eat cake? Well, no, let's eat you. So this could get crazy. I do see some more comments have come in. Let me see. Do I have comments coming in? Oh, that was somebody in my chat, which I don't have time to look at. So let's continue. Frontier markets also present opportunities for investors to make a significant social impact by addressing issues such as poverty and climate change. These markets are often home to the poorest segments of the global population, and investments can help lift these economies out of poverty while fostering innovation and growth. And of course, that is one of our primary motivations for investing in Africa. Is this our motherland? I am an African on this planet. I cannot be living within a wealthy nation with all of the comforts and features of a wealthy nation while allowing my brothers and sisters and our nieces and nephews to be hurting in other parts of the planet. I am my brothers and sisters' keeper. Furthermore, the relative illiquidity of frontier markets can lead to pricing inefficiencies, which can present profitable opportunities for savvy investors. Despite the risks, the potential rewards are substantial. And as external pressures ease, asset allocators are starting to re-engage with the frontier market opportunity. What does that mean? As external pressures ease, that means as the pressures on other economies to try and bolster themselves ease, asset allocators are starting to re-engage with the frontier market opportunity. Why? Because the correlation, that was that low correlation with other international markets. That's very important. High returns and growth potential. Frontier markets offer the potential for high returns due to their strong growth and untapped potential. Point two, diversification benefits. The low correlation with other markets can help reduce overall portfolio risk and volatility. Point three, social impact. Investments can contribute to addressing issues such as poverty and climate change and women-owned businesses, women-owned enterprises, agriculture. There's so many specific social impacts that investing in frontier markets can address. Profitable opportunities. Pricing inefficiencies due to illiquidity can present profitable opportunities for investors, and without becoming loan sharks, without becoming mafioso or these new loan sharking neighborhood bank check cashing banks. That's because of illiquidity. People are illiquid, and so they have to raise money real quickly, and the interest rates in these opportunities are skyrocketing, outrageous. And economic growth. These markets often experience higher economic growth rates compared to their counterparts. Here's another article that I have here, and I'll push this one up into the comments section per the request of my brother, Nguvu. There it is. Push that up in the comments section. 7 Reasons to Invest in Frontier Markets, written by Carl Dayfeld from Cabot Wealth, February 2, 2025. And here, let me just copy this and push it up in the chat, as well as push this up for our YouTube family. And I thought I'd push this other one up earlier. Come on, we can do it. Oh, I did push it up there. And push this new one up. 7 Reasons to Invest in Frontier Markets. Let me give you these 7 reasons. Frontier markets often offer higher growth potential than even emerging markets. And here are 7 reasons why it makes sense to embrace them. They begin with the question, first, where does the term frontier theme come from? In 1893, historian Frederick Jackson Turner gave a talk to the American Historical Society, stressing the image of the frontier as defining the American idea. The edge of growth that kept moving westward across the continent has, with today's global economy, spread to every region of the world. And of course, in 1893, American frontier was the scene of constant, enduring genocide that had already been going on for 200 years. Let's be clear about that. How big are these frontier markets? The 24 countries that comprise the Morgan Stanley Capital Investment Frontier 100 Index have a total population of more than 850 million people. These are countries that have less developed less liquid stock markets, and normally smaller economies. Frontier markets are also completely off the radar screen of Wall Street analysts and financial pundits. Here are 7 reasons for you to get ahead of the game by leapfrogging to frontier market growth. Number 1, the frontier market's edge. 1, faster economic growth. 39 of the 45 countries projected to grow 6 to 7% over the next 5 years are frontier markets. A study by Everest Capital puts 17 of the 20 fastest growing economies in the world in the frontier camp. That's the same thing that I say in my recent book, The African Future, Empowering a United and Prosperous Africa for Future Generations. And I talk about GDP growth, and we talk about of the world's fastest growing nations, I think 17 of 35 or so, 18 of 35, I think that's the number, are African economies. And I point them out. Developing the global African, oh, wow. Don't get me started because I like that book. I did some really good demographic work in that book. Continuing, favorable demographics. Speaking of the angel, a young population means lower financial burdens for governments and a dynamic consumer class catching up to the West. About 40% of the world's 15 to 24-year-olds live in frontier countries. About 40% of the world's 15 to 24-year-olds live in frontier countries versus less than 10% in North America, Japan, and Europe. Wow. That's pretty dramatic. Number 3, low debt. The government debt in these markets averages around 45% of GDP, half that of the developed countries. United States debt to GDP ratio is 127%. The debt is significantly higher than the gross domestic product. What? Did I say 127%? I think that's it. I'm pretty sure I double check these numbers regularly. That's outrageous. Integration with the global economy. Due to breakdowns in communications and rising demand from multinationals for low-cost labor, resources, and new consumer markets, frontier economies have gone from being out of the loop to smack in the middle of it. Reason number 5 for investing in frontier markets: attractive market valuations. Because listed frontier market companies remain hidden to many investors, bargains abound. Frontier markets account for 25% of the world's population and 12% of the global economy, but less than 3% of the market value of all companies trading on world stock markets. This gap will eventually close. And because frontier markets have been out of favor, valuations look particularly attractive. A recent analysis by TCM Investment Funds found that frontier markets are by far the cheapest investment category based on price to earnings ratio, P/E. Point number 6, inefficient markets. While this cuts both ways, one could argue that because frontier markets are small and less liquid, high quality companies sometimes can be picked up at bargain prices by alert investors. Very good point. For example, fueled by Mongolia's significant copper and gold deposits, Investors bid up Mongolia's stock market 900% in dollar terms from its 2009 low to its 2011 high. 900% stock valuation bid up in 2 years. That's 300% per year. Wow. Over the next 9 years, that market traded 69% lower before surging 130% in 2021. And point number seven, low correlation to other markets. We talked about this a couple of times. Blending in some frontier market stocks to your portfolio will actually lower your portfolio risk and volatility, since these markets tend to march to the beat of a different drum. When developed or emerging markets head south, frontier markets stocks can go the other way. Their fates are not intertwined with the more developed markets. Studies have shown that the frontier market index only moves with the Morgan Stanley Capital Investments World Index, or MSCI Emerging Markets Index, 35% of the time. So if Morgan Stanley's index is going south, there's a 2 out of 3 chance that the frontier markets might be decoupled from, or are already decoupled from that, and might be moving the opposite direction. In short, these markets offer you the opportunities that emerging markets like China offered 20 or more years ago. To put this in perspective, China's total exports in 1980 were equal to 1 day of exports in China of 2010. Let me repeat that. These markets offer you the opportunities that emerging markets like China offered 20 or more years ago. To put this in perspective, China's total exports in 1980 were equal to 1 day of exports in the China of 2010. In 1990, China's economy was equal to that of Taiwan. Now, it's more than 15 times bigger. Wow, that's pretty impressive. We're asking a question, and we're in a different search engine now. Ecosia. What is the advantage of investing in frontier markets? Offer several advantages. Point, high growth potential. Frontier markets often have emerging economies that can experience rapid growth, presenting opportunities for significant returns on investment. Point two, diversification. Investing in frontier markets can help diversify an investment portfolio, reducing overall risk by spreading investments across different regions and economies. Less competition. Many investors overlook frontier markets, which can lead to less competition and potentially better investment opportunities. Point, valuation opportunities. Frontier markets may have undervalued assets due to a lack of investor interest and potentially better investment opportunities. Point, access to new sectors. These markets may offer exposure to sectors that are not well represented in developed markets, such as agriculture, telecommunications, and natural resources. And yeah, you look at agriculture, who would be investing in agriculture in the United States right now? It's an absolute chaos and chaotic. You have the severe drought affecting the entire western section of the country, where significant agricultural assets are implanted. California's drought, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, Colorado, all of these impacted. New Mexico impacted by drought. So yeah, you want to look for new investment markets. Agriculture, investing in agriculture in Ethiopia and Uganda and Nigeria, I know, I know from inside that that's where it's at. Demographic trends. Many frontier markets have young, growing populations that can drive demand for goods and services, contributing to economic growth and increasing global integration. As globalization continues, frontier markets may become more integrated into the global economy, potentially leading to increased investment returns. While there are potential rewards, it is important to consider the risks associated with investing in frontier markets, such as political instability, lower liquidity, and less regulatory oversight. Well, let's go a little deeper into that very question. What are the leading risks of investing in frontier markets? Copilot returned the following. Investing in frontier markets can be enticing due to their potential for high returns, but they come with significant risks. Here are some of the leading challenges. Number one, political instability. Many frontier markets face frequent political upheavals, which can disrupt economic activities and affect investments. Point two, currency fluctuations. Exchange rates in these markets can be highly volatile, impacting the value of investments. Ugh. That started off as a sneeze and ended up as a yawn. That was a snoring. I'm sorry. I can't help myself. That was a snoring. Continuing. Political instability. I think I did mention that one. Point three, currency fluctuations. I just mentioned that one. Liquidity issues. Frontier markets often have less developed financial systems, making it harder to buy or sell assets quickly. Regulatory challenges. Weak regulatory frameworks and inconsistent enforcement can pose risks to investors. And that's a very important point. I'm supposed to be on a radio interview. It was supposed to have taken place this past Monday, but they had a Islamic holiday, so they put the show off. I probably will be next Monday, which would be Sunday night for me. I gotta double check. But that's a very important point they wanted me to comment on, and that dealt with how can Africa attract more investors from the diaspora. And so that's a key point. Regulatory challenges. Weak regulatory frameworks and inconsistent enforcement can pose risks to investors. Point, economic volatility. These markets are more susceptible to economic shocks, such as inflation or commodity price changes. That was a major, major disruptor of African development in the 1970s, 1980s, and early 1990s, with commodity prices fluctuating very dramatically, triggering the structural adjustment policies of the IMF and the World Bank, which gutted many of these countries' GDP growth. They're rebounding. Some of them rebounding better than others. Economic volatility. These markets are more susceptible to economic shocks, such as inflation or commodity prices changes. Despite these risks, frontier markets can offer unique opportunities for diversification and growth. Yes, that is true. Let's go. I pulled up another article here, and I'm going to push this one into the comment section per request of my brother Nguvu, who hasn't said a word to me. I'm doing what you asked me to, man. You at least got to talk to me. Talk to me. Come on now. Don't treat your brother like that. Oh, he said it was going to be in and out, so sorry about that. I don't mean to bag on you while you're not listening. So here I did push that up, and I'm going to push this up for those who are listening. Let me see, because listening audience, you're gonna have to step up. I'm requesting that of you. You need to step up your engagement. I could be doing all of these studies I'm doing today on my own and just issuing a private report. I'm doing this as a community service. This is an empowering service. If you don't give anything back, then you lose people who give for you. You ever have a friend and they're always asking you for money, always asking you for favors? Oh, can you let me off a little something? But they never give anything back. How long do they remain your friend? Not very long, is it? Not very long. So we're either going to do better or we're not going to be doing much at all. We're either going to do better or we're not going to be doing very much at all, people. I'm serious. Let's go forward. Whew. What are frontier markets? How markets are evaluated and why it matters, by Emily Bolter and David Stein. Money for the Rest of Us, July 10, 2024. Frontier markets consist of equity markets of countries that are in the early stages of economic development with less liquid financial markets and limited foreign investor access compared to developed countries. MCSI, which stands for Morgan Stanley Capital International. I was saying investment before him. Morgan Stanley Capital International, MCSI, a leading provider of indexes and analytics, classifies varying markets into one of four categories. 1, developed markets. 2, emerging markets. 3, frontier markets. And 4, standalone markets. Depending on which categories a market fits into, it is placed within a corresponding index. Why does this matter? Well, depending on what index or market your country is classified under, investors are more or less likely to invest, which drives future performance and capital growth. It's a big deal for a country to move from an emerging market status to a developed market status. It is a big deal for a country to move from an emerging market status to a developed market status. Just as important is when a market bumps down in status. Turkey and Argentina, for example, ran the risk of downgrading in 2021. So what criteria must a country meet in order for its stock market to be included in one of these categories? MCSI evaluates using the Global Market Accessibility Review. Each market is evaluated against 18 different metrics, but the main considerations are point 1, and here I got to look that up. That sounds like something I need to know more about in the background. Bear with me. Just push that one up, and we're looking at the Global Market Accessibility Review from MCSI. That's their own tool, and I'll come back to that later. Their main considerations are point 1, market accessibility. How hospitable is a market to foreign investors? What are the regulations, qualifications, and rights of outside investors? Point 2, economic development? What is the historical consistency and growth of the market? Have the rules, regulations, and participation from within and outside proven steady? Point three, liquidity. How easy is it to buy and withdraw funds within the market? Number 4.4, market size. How much opportunity is there for growth? Are there caps on any investment instruments or foreign participation? What is the percentage of domestic involvement? How large is the country itself? The entire market structure and trading framework are considered. If a country scores perfectly in all 18 metrics, then it is placed in the developed market. If there are no major issues but room for improvement, the country is placed in the emerging market. If there's significant room for improvement and development, it is either placed in the frontier or standalone market. There we go. That's a pretty good answer to that question. My question number 4 began my thought processes about today's show. What kinds of profits or losses have frontier markets generated in 2025? Of course, we're still very early in the year. I actually meant to write since 2015, but I asked it a second time. As of April 2nd, 2025, we have the first quarter. January, February, March are behind us. The performance of frontier markets has been shaped by several key factors and trends. Point 1, economic growth. Frontier markets are expected to continue their upward trajectory in 2025, supported by improving macroeconomic conditions, easing inflation, and attractive equity valuations. The overall economic growth for frontier markets is forecasted to be reasonable, with some countries like Vietnam and the Philippines expected to grow by 6.1% in 2025. Market valuations. Valuation metrics for frontier markets remain near all-time lows, with a 2025 profit to expenses ratio of 7x, offering an attractive entry point for investors. Profit to earnings, 7 times profit to earnings. Diversification benefits. Frontier markets offer a compelling mix of strong structural growth and diversification benefits, appealing to investors seeking uncorrelated opportunities. These markets have low correlations to developed and emerging markets, acting as a buffer against global volatility. Low growth drivers. Frontier markets are well positioned to capitalize on local growth drivers, which are often uncorrelated and with global economic trends. For example, Vietnam's growth is often uncorrelated with global economic trends. For example, Vietnam's growth is driven by its integration into global supply chains and strategic trade agreements, while the Philippines benefits from resilient remittances and domestic consumption. Resilient remittances and domestic consumption. All of those Filipino healthcare workers that came into the United States economy, and I know Filipinos who are engaging in this are sending significant amounts of money home for their families to acquire land, to build businesses, and to build their homes. That's true. Investor interest. The expected FTSE upgrade of Vietnam's US $200 billion stock market to emerging market status, likely in the first quarter 2025, should increase liquidity and investor interest. Now we can look at Vietnam's growth just in the first quarter of 2025 to see an example of what might be expected should African governance, African leadership, and investors in Africa make Similar moves. Hey, I'm not that mad at Vietnamese people for nothing. I've always had a profound love and respect for Vietnamese people. I grew up in the era where I came a year or so close to being drafted into the U.S. military and could very well likely have suffered the same fate as some of my friends who are just slightly older than me who got sent to Vietnam. Praise be their eternal names. Investor interest. I mentioned that in challenges. Despite the positive outlook, frontier markets still face global uncertainties, including Fed policy and trade tensions. Now, they're supposed to be uncoupled, so Fed policy and trade tensions will be influencing the global economy. No doubt, no doubt. That is undeniable. That's happening right now, and it's wicked. But these countries, many of them were uncorrelated. So despite the positive outlook, frontier markets still face global uncertainties, including Fed policy and trade tensions. However, these markets are generally more resilient due to their diverse and locally driven economies. Current performance as of the latest data, the frontier cryptocurrency, which is often associated with frontier markets, has shown a recent price movement of negative 0.006681, reflecting a minus 3% change in value over the past 24 hours. Over the last days, Front, their cryptocurrency, was trading at a high of 0.33 and a half cents and a low of 0.21 and a quarter cents, with a price change of minus 11.02%. These factors collectively indicate that frontier markets are poised for continued growth and offer attractive investment opportunities despite the ongoing global economic challenges. Same question of Copilot. Bear with me. This is rather tedious, but I sure know, I can tell you already, I said at the beginning of the show, by the end of the show, I'm going to know a lot more about frontier market investing than I did at the beginning, and already I have satisfied that curiosity. Then I'm going to be taking everything you're hearing today and I'm going to be compressing into a chapter of a book that I'll be writing, and probably by the time the book hits the press, I will have read it through at least 8 times. That's how we roll. Copilot, the same question. Frontier market performance in 2025 has shown mixed performance. The MSCI, the Morgan Stanley Capital, what was that last word? Capital International Frontier Markets Index recorded a gross return of 14.15% over the past year. This indicates a positive trend. Yeah, I would say 14% year-on-year growth in a market. That's pretty doggone good. This indicates a positive trend, although the returns can vary significantly depending on the specific market and investment strategy. Positive returns. Frontier markets, which are among the least developed stock markets, saw strong performance in the years leading up to 2015. Mutual funds that invest in frontier markets returned an annualized average of 5.9% over the 3 years through March 2015, according to Morningstar. Contrast with emerging markets. This performance contrasted with emerging market funds, which lost an annualized average of 0.3% in the same period. So frontier markets gained 5.9% over this 3-year period, while emerging markets were a step above them, lost an average of 0.3% in the same period. Frontier markets have experienced a mix of profits and losses since 2015, reflecting their volatility and sensitivity to global economic conditions. Here's a snapshot of their performance. 2015, the MSCI Frontier Markets Index declined by approximately minus 14.07%, reflecting challenges in global markets. 2017, a strong year with a 32.32% gain, driven by economic growth in several frontier economies. 2018, a tough year with minus 16.2% loss as global trade tensions and other factors weighed on markets. 2021, a rebound year with a 20.09% gain as economies recovered from the pandemic. 2022, a challenging year with a minus 26.05% loss, likely due to global economic uncertainties. 2023, a recovery with a 12% gain, 12.17% gain, showing resilience in these markets. The performance of frontier markets can vary widely year to year, influenced by factors like political stability, commodity prices, and global economic trends. We're near the end of today's report. Got about another 10 or 12 minutes to go. If you find this to be useful, I'm going to ask you to go to keidi.biz, keidi.biz, and get my latest books on Pan-African sovereign and sustainable development. Here is the newest one. This one is just less than a month out, called The African Future: Empowering a United and Prosperous Africa for Future Generations. And it talks about economic development. I have a whole chapter on economic development, innovation, harnessing technology and energy solutions. And when we talk about those 5 African countries, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Kenya, what were the other 2? Ghana, and the other one. Those African 5 frontier countries. And there are more, but those were the specific top performers we mentioned. Well, that's where this work is taking place. So go to keidi.biz. Show some love, show some support. Show that this does matter to you. Support the work that I do. And get ahead of the game at http keidi.biz/CRP 2012 and get the new book, The African Future. Get ahead of the game, people. Get ahead of the game. I'm serious. You are serious too. We should be serious. So let me put that link up. For those of you who are going to be participating, not just be passive all the time, just sitting around waiting for others to make their moves, while you bitterly complain about what the French are doing in Africa, while you bitterly complain about what the Americans plan to do in Africa, while you bitterly complain about China in Africa. Come on, people. At a certain point, you can grow up. And you can become engaged, participating in real world. I'm doing the best I can. I could do even better if I didn't have to just struggle all the time. All of us could say that. We could do better if we didn't just have to struggle all the time. Struggle all the time. We're going to do better. We are going to do better. I'm almost finished. Here is the last part of who are the most successful frontier market investors. Brave gave the following. While the context does not provide specific names, it does highlight several key trends and insights that can help identify successful investors in this space, including diversification and risk management. Successful frontier investors often diversify their portfolios to manage risk. Frontier markets are known for their high growth potential, but also for volatility and illiquidity. Investors who have successfully navigated these markets have likely balanced their exposure across multiple countries and sectors to mitigate risk. Point 2, focus on structural growth. Investors who have focused on countries with strong structural growth drivers have likely seen significant returns. For example, Vietnam and the Philippines are forecast to grow by 6.1% in 2025, driven by integration into global supply chains and resilient domestic consumption. Valuation opportunities. Frontier markets have been relatively undervalued compared to other investment categories. A recent analysis by TCM Investment Funds found that frontier markets are cheapest investment category based on price to earnings ratio. Point, investors who have capitalized on these valuation gaps are likely achieved higher returns. Next point, local expertise and on the ground knowledge. Bear with me. Successful investors in frontier markets often have deep local expertise and on the ground knowledge. This helps them navigate the unique challenges and opportunities in these markets, such as regulatory changes, political risks, and economic reforms. Long-term perspective. Frontier markets require a long-term investment horizon. Investors who have maintained a patient, long-term approach have likely reaped the benefits of sustained economic growth and market development. Use of EFTs and index funds. The iShares MSCI Frontier 100 ETF and the Global X Next Emerging and Frontier ETF have been popular vehicles for accessing frontier markets. These are electronic trading funds. These EFTs provide exposure to a diversified portfolio of frontier market equities, allowing investors to benefit from the overall growth of these markets. Of course, then you've got to split your profits with the managers of the funds, which is not unreasonable. Because if they're getting a good return, you don't mind splitting your profits with them. Adaptability to global trends. Successful investors have adapted to global trends such as trade tensions going full bore this week, Fed policy, and the integration of frontier markets into global supply chains. For example, the expected FTSE upgrade of Vietnam's stock market to emerging market status in the first quarter 2025 is likely to increase liquidity and investor interest. Same question to Copilot. The best performers frontier markets are often considered high risk, high reward investment opportunities. And some investors have excelled in navigating these challenging environments. For example, Tim Drinkall of Morgan Stanley has achieved notable success with his Frontier Emerging Markets Equity Funds. Alan Conway and Ramsey Sidani from Schroders have also been recognized for their performance in frontier markets equity funds. These investors focus on sectors like financials and consumer staples in countries like such as Argentina, Kuwait, and United Arab Emirates. So, one more question. How does frontier market investing perform for smaller investors? Ecosia returned the following. Frontier market investing can offer both opportunities and challenges for smaller investors. Here are some key points to consider. Point one, high growth potential. Frontier markets often have the potential for high growth rates compared to more developed markets, which can be attractive for investors looking for higher returns. Diversification. Investing in frontier markets can provide diversification benefits as these markets may not be closely correlated with developed markets. Point three, higher risks. These markets can be more volatile and subject to political instability, economic fluctuations, and currency risks, which may pose challenges for smaller investors who may not have the resources to absorb significant losses. You may not have much of a margin call. Ooh, don't remind me. Access to investments. Smaller investors may find it more difficult to access certain frontier market investments as many opportunities are available through larger funds or investment vehicles that may have high minimum investment thresholds. Point, research and due diligence. It's crucial for investors to conduct thorough research and due diligence, as information can be less readily available and less transparent in frontier markets. Point, investment vehicles. Smaller investors can consider mutual funds or exchange traded funds, ETFs, that focus on frontier markets, as these can provide more accessible options with professional management. Copilot, the same question. How can small investors get in on this? Frontier market investing can be a mixed bag for smaller investors. These markets often offer high growth potential due to their developing economies, but they also come with significant risks like political instability, currency fluctuations, and limited liquidity. Smaller investors may find it challenging to access these markets directly, as they often require specialized knowledge and higher transaction costs. However, investing through mutual funds or ETFs focused on frontier markets can be a more accessible option. And one more article I pulled up, I'm going to share with you, The Final Frontier, Investing in Frontier Markets. And I'm just going to share the link to this in the comments section on Rumble by request of our brother Nguvu. And I'm still kind of puzzled why people won't respond. Why people are just frozen. It is what it is. People are continuing to do it. It's not like this is brand new. People have been treating me like this as we've been kind of going downhill. And that didn't work. Let's try it one more time, a different way. And copy just the link to the article, Investment in Frontier Markets, Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, August 11, 2015. So here is what I just tried to share, and I'm going to share it one more time. And there it is in the chats. Here's what it has to say. The title of the article, The Final Frontier, Investing in Frontier Markets from Finance Industry Regulatory Authority, FIRA, August 11, 2015. At first glance, it may seem like a Kenyan brewer, a Pakistani cement manufacturer, and a Bangladeshi telecom venture doesn't seem like they have much in common. But all of these companies are publicly traded on stock exchanges located in so-called frontier markets, and international funds have invested in all of them. What is a frontier market? The phrase frontier markets generally refers to developing markets that are smaller, with legal, financial, accounting, and regulatory infrastructure that may be weaker or less developed than emerging markets such as Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Notably, political stability and investor rights may be of greater concern in these countries. Often their securities markets are less developed, market depth and breadth may be more limited, and capital flows may be more restricted, all of which may present significant risks to investors. Frontier markets may also have less investor participation and fewer large global companies. While not all index providers agree on which countries fit into the grouping, index providers MSCI Incorporated and the FTSE Group collectively give the frontier market title to 28 countries. Many countries on the combined list, such as Kenya and Bangladesh, have underdeveloped, fast-growing economies. However, the term also encompasses wealthier, resource-rich countries that have only recently loosened investment restrictions, such as Kuwait. The group also includes small countries like Croatia and Baltic states, such as Estonia and Lithuania, which lack the demographic clout of emerging markets, but still have fairly robust economies. As of December 2014, 15 U.S. listed frontier funds managed a combined $5 billion in assets, according to fund tracker Morningstar. However, the market cap of all of the components that make up the MSCI Frontier Markets Index, which tracks the performance of 24 frontier markets, is worth just $106 billion, some 3% of the $4 trillion MSCI Emerging Markets Index, according to a December 2014 report by Morningstar. The amount of raw dollars in frontier funds is dwarfed by the $405 billion in assets in emerging market funds, the report said. Talks about the risks a pioneer faces. Frontier markets remain at the fringe of the investment universe because they are inherently risky propositions. Most are very young markets that can have fewer regulations than established markets. There can also be fewer opportunities to trade in and out of securities without impacting market prices compared to more mature and more active markets. The Nairobi Securities Exchange is a good example. The $23 billion market capitalization of all the companies listed on the exchange may sound impressive, but it has about the same market value as Twitter, and it is tiny compared to the New York Stock Exchange, where listed companies have a combined market capitalization of $16.6 trillion. In more mature economies, a stock market swoon may entice bargain hunting investors to buy stocks while their prices are low. But the small investor base in frontier markets can make it more difficult to mitigate any decline. Hence, during the global financial crisis, frontier markets experienced the sharpest declines, with the MSCI Frontier Markets Index dropping by 66%, compared to 58% for the MSCI Emerging Market Index and 49% for the MSCI USA Index. Also, while frontier markets as measured by the MSCI Frontier Markets Index, have outperformed emerging markets from 2012 to 2014. Taking a longer view paints a less rosy picture. In 6 of the last 10 calendar years, the MSCI Emerging Market Index outperformed frontier markets. Next, talking about growth in foreign markets. Many frontier markets have enjoyed solid economic growth in recent years, outpacing their counterparts in emerging and developed economies. In 2013, Kenya's gross domestic product GDP grew by 5.7%, and Kazakhstan's grew 6%. Both rates are notably higher than Brazil, a large emerging market economy that grew just 2.5% last year. The contrast with some of the world's most advanced economies is even more pronounced. France's economy grew 0.3% last year. And even Germany, generally considered to be the economic engine of Europe, grew just 0.1%, according to the World Bank. So, almost finished. Are there frontier market investment funds that are listed in the financial markets? This article entitled Angola Eyes Private Investment for Economic Diversification with U.S. Support, written by Rafael Carvalho and October 25, 2024 in Africa Cooperation FA. Angola is leveraging international attention as it seeks to position itself as a prime investment destination in Africa, with U.S. President Joe Biden's upcoming visit and ongoing discussions at the IMF and World Bank meetings in Washington. The focus is on U.S.-backed Lobito Corridor, a significant infrastructure project aimed at boosting regional trade and development. Angola hopes this initiative will serve as a catalyst for private sector participation in its economic transformation journey. Facing a substantial national debt, Angola's government has embarked on a multi-year reform strategy to transition toward a market-friendly economy. The objective is to reduce its dependency on commodities like oil, gas, and diamonds by diversifying into sectors such as agriculture, logistics, and manufacturing. The Lobito Corridor, which connects Angola to Zambia and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, is central to this plan, offering opportunities for growth in transport and trade sectors. The government's approach includes creating a conducive environment for private investors, implementing policies to ensure transparency, and strengthening the legal framework to encourage business activities. Angola is seeking to unlock new markets and create a regional hub for trade and industry. This support from the U.S. not only boosts investor confidence, but also aligns Angola's interests with those of international development partners. The upcoming engagements with the U.S. and international financial institutions are seen as pivotal moments for Angola. They provide a platform for the country to showcase its progress and potential, emphasizing its commitment to sustainable development and economic diversification. Angola seeks to revitalize its economy through increased private investment, aiming to alleviate its debt challenges and drive substantial growth. The strategy focuses on reducing reliance on traditional exports like oil, gas, and diamonds, while fostering economic diversification. By attracting both domestic and foreign investors, Angola envisions creating new growth opportunities, enhancing infrastructure, and improving living standards for its citizens, ensuring long-term stability and prosperity. And on that note, we just finished a very lengthy report for today. The book I'm working feverishly on is entitled Africa, alive, investing in emerging economies. I guess I should change that from not emerging markets, making money in emerging markets, but investing in frontier investing. So again, let me change that. Let me change that subtitle. I won't change it right now. But yeah, these countries we're talking about today are not emerging markets. They're not classified as emerging markets. So I don't want my subtitle of my book to be inaccurate or misleading. But we're talking about frontier markets. I can just change the word from emerging to frontier. And instead of making money, creating wealth. Creating wealth. There it is. That quickly. See how the brain works when you keep it active? I want to thank you all for tuning in today. It's been a pleasure. I certainly learned a lot. And I said that was what I was going to do at the beginning of the show. You heard me say it. You might want to listen back to today's show again a second time or third time, however many times is necessary for you to be able to take advantage of what we do here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, and livinginblack.com. If you're in Las Vegas this Saturday, oops, didn't mean to do that. If you're in Las Vegas this Saturday, we are going to be having the first Saturday feast. And the first Saturday feast is where we get together, our vegan community, and we look at Chef Keating in the kitchen. You celebrate the first Saturday vegan feast. I have my menu right here. There are 30 items on the feast, but I went shopping yesterday. I went to the Asian supermarket. I went to the Mediterranean supermarket, and then I went to one other supermarket. I can't remember. Oh, I went to the bulk bin at Winco. And let me tell you, this menu has got 30 items on it already. I saw some other things, including some things I've never tried before. So we're going to have an adventure. We're going to have an adventure. And you, if you're in Las Vegas, you should be joining. It's going to be Saturday, April 5 to 7 p.m. in the Desert Shores area of Las Vegas, a beautiful lakeside home. Come on through. Try us one time. Try us one time. Watch the beautiful people who gather with us. Make friends. Enjoy this feast. And let's talk about how food is nature's most perfect medicine. I always try and give lessons as I'm showing the people how I prepare the food. But you walk in, we hydrate, we then set out hors d'oeuvres. Last time I think we had 14 hors d'oeuvres and appetizers set out. Yeah, that's what we do. 14 herbs and appetizers. Wow. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? And just when you see what I'm going to be doing, appetizers on this list, I have 7 veggie pate, blue corn chips, whole grain crackers, not cheese pate, dehydrated apple slices, pico de gallo, yam chips. Hey, we can do whatever we want to do. I'm just adding certain things to the menu as well. So come on out. And also get the books. I put up the link, KEIDI.biz. Go to keidi.biz. Look at the books that are there. You tell me. You have to go into the folder, Conscious Rasta Press 2012. It's not that hard to find. You can find my books at Amazon.com. I want to be a part of your solutions reference library. And on that note, I think we've done a good job today. And I'm going to wrap it up. And I'm going to play the bumper music and not hit the wrong button this time. We are live and direct. Open that. Go to my device list. Find the Sony. Connect it. It's already connected. So let's just see if the bumper music plays the way we intended it to play on your favorite. We aim to be your favorite. We are LIB Radio, LIB TV. We are livinginblack.com. Peace and prosperity to each and every one of you. On your favorite, we aim to be your favorite. We are livinginblack.com. Peace, y'all.